Good morning and thanks so much for tuning into the trade setup. I'm Neeraj Shah. Let's take stock of what the world markets are up to and then get down to what could be impacting our markets. So the US markets had an iffy day yesterday, but the futures as we speak are down and with reason. I'll get to that in just a moment. Um, the other cues, the treasury yields actually rose in trade yesterday after Fitch downgraded the US markets, and we'll look at that 4.08. Now, that is a bit of a negative from a market's perspective. VIX went up as well. The dollar index is steady, but the 10-year yield at 4.08 is the key culprit, which could be impacting markets, financials, etc. So that's to be kept in mind. For whatever reason, the yield moves up, but the yields moving up is a problem. The gift nifty should be trading with a marginal negative bias or a negative bias, 0.21% lower at 19,759, and this shouldn't surprise anybody at all. Now, what are the reasons for this happening? One, the US job openings fell to the lowest level since 2021 and the layoffs eased. But the US credit rating was downgraded from AAA to a notch lower by Fitch. Now, this Fitch follows S&P, and this is the big story, which is around the world markets and financial markets per se. As a result of which, like I said, treasuries gained, Asian stocks fell on that Fitch fallout. And Donald Trump, amongst other things, in other news, has been indicted on federal charges in 2020 election probe as well. So the 2024 race, not just in India, but in the US, is also very, very uh, newsworthy, if you will. And I think we'll hear more and more of this in the days to come and from the US end. Now, what happened in trade yesterday, viewers? Let's just get that out of the way first. Nifty 50 declined about 20 points. Bank Nifty was down about 0.13%, so no big changes there. India VIX, in fact, came off by 1.25% to close at about 10.28. Broader indices, though, while they remain mixed, the small caps continue to gain about 0.64%. And what did well? Nifty IT. Remember yesterday we spoke about how the upticks in Nifty IT are not ruled out because a lot of chartists were talking about it. Well, it did play out 1.2% higher, was top performer, followed by Nifty Metal about 0.18%. Nifty Real Estate lost about 1.77%, I guess, pegged down by DLF. So therefore, on light of all of this, what's the trade setup? Well, we know that the Nifty is wedged in a very slender range with the broader markets continuing traction. Strong moves have been seen in beta 90 names the last couple of days, but the extent of the up move now is difficult to predict. We've seen about 2 or 3 days of an uptick in select IT names. I don't know if there is more in store, so it's very difficult to predict here on. Yesterday it was easy. You could feel that there was a bit of attraction. Chartists were saying that things are looking strong. So yes, there was a bit of an uptick. With the markets doing what they're doing today, very difficult to predict if that will continue or no. And therefore, the safer havens would possibly be power, railways, defense, maybe cement, everything uh, focused on the domestic economy remain the pockets of positional trade opportunities. This is what the best of the minds are saying. You could even argue some of the financials would be in that bucket. So keep that in mind. Not big in terms of flows. FIs sold about 92 crores. DIs bought about 1,035 crores. So no big changes on the flows front. And in earnings, well, two large names, Ambuja and Titan, come out with numbers, but a bunch of others which are important. So there is Adani Wilmar, there is Godrej Properties, Gujarat Gas, and HPCL from the energy space. There is Interglobe Aviation, which will be important. Indostar Capital Finance will be interesting too. And there is Mankind Pharma and Metropolis from the healthcare space. And especially after the kind of start that Mankind Pharma has had, will be very, very interesting. Paradeep Phosphates, Quest Corp, Sapphire Foods, some of the smaller ones, and SKF India to their commentary about what's happening in the capex space would be very, very important. So I think more than the results of SKF, what Manish Bhatnagar of SKF has to say tomorrow in the interviews would be of more importance. So watching out for all of that. Now, in light of all of this, what are the key stocks to keep in mind? I think that's the one key focus area to be monitored. So, firstly, there is Campus Activewear. Media reports suggest that block deal of 80 lakh shares likely today. Deal price at about 295 to 300, which is about a 240 crore total value, deal value. But at 295 to 300, there isn't too much. But the key is, if this deal is out of the way and if it gets absorbed well, then you might see a bit of attraction in Campus. So that's to be kept in mind. Um, Hero had a bit of a downtick yesterday on news flow that is well discovered. Now, the point is there is more news flow today. The total sales fell about 12% to 3.91 lakh. Now, the last line is important, right? Jeffries estimated July sales at 4.46 lakh units. Others may have estimated slightly different. I'm using Jeffries as an example. So relative to estimates of 4.46, they came in at 3.91. So 2 days of consecutive weak news flow for Hero MotoCorp. Likely that the stock could continue to remain under pressure today. TVS, on the other hand, the total sales rose about 4% to 3.26. The estimates were 3.22, and therefore yet another month wherein TVS has beaten estimates. Could well do well. So watch out for TVS. iShare is the interesting one, viewers. So 32% growth is not a weak number, right? They've come in 32% Royal Enfield growth numbers, which is strong. But the point is, the estimates were for about 77,000 units. They've come in at 73,000 units. Now, this coincides very well with the launches done by Hero and Bajaj. And therefore, would the market want to believe that competition is already hurting in some fashion or starting to hurt Royal Enfield as well? And could that be the party pooper? Remains to be seen. So good numbers, 32% is strong, lower than estimates coinciding with competition launch coming up. People would wonder, would iShare blink? Could there be some market share loss? Could there be some price correction because they might want to make it more competitive on the price front? All of those questions might start coming to the fore. I'm no expert on this, but I believe that would be the case. So watch out for iShare today. Then some other newsmakers before we get to results. So SAT Industries, well, Aeroflex Industries Limited, their subsidiary, they've said, so this is the statement that Aeroflex Industries Limited, our subsidiary, has intimated the exchanges that it has received a clearance from SEBI for its IPO. Watch out for this stock, was active yesterday, maybe because of this reason. Maybe there is some more activity. Please do your own due diligence. Of course, it's a small cap stock, so very risky at these times to try and bet on small cap names which you haven't researched. So please keep that in mind. Ami Organics, it's a mid cap name. The board is meeting on Friday, August 4th, to consider a preferential allotment. Again, you know, a specialty chemical company in the right chemistry, presumably a preferential allotment announcement is good news, but if you do not know, don't try and preempt that. Then Coal India. India's coal production in July went up by 14% to reach 68.75 million tons. Dispatch is lower than the production, but still a 10% number is not that bad. Coal India, remember, was very active in trade yesterday, up about 4.5%. Let's wait and watch how this fares today. Ashiana Housing, the company's entered into an investment framework agreement with IFC. IFC will invest about 112 crores to about 225 crores on terms and conditions, of course. The proposal includes project-to-project investment by IFC, representing 40% of the capital required by a project. And remainder 66% will be contributed by Ashiana. You know, this is good news, viewers, for a company. IFC is no mean organization. It's a large one. The fact that they have now backstopped 40% of the investment with such a large firm means that capital requirements for Ashiana Housing come off. I remember, I may be wrong, but I do not vividly really, but faintly remember that Ashiana Housing has some strong expansion plans, which real estate company doesn't, by the way, these days, but it has some strong expansion plans to develop more and more. And therefore, a commitment like this from IFC would probably give a bit of a confidence to shareholders there. So you may well see Ashiana Housing react positively today. So please keep that in mind. Excuse me. Now, results. I'll first talk about something that I haven't given graphics for, but Sansar Engineering was a decent quarter, I thought. Sales at 660 crores versus 532, so about a 25% growth YOY. Gross margins actually came off a little bit, but EBITDA margin maintained at 17.2% versus 17.1%, and a growth of 29% PAT at 45 crores. So very interesting set of numbers by Sansera. Could well be a stock that you need to monitor in the session today. Of course, a lot of stocks these days move post the con calls, so that's to be kept in mind. I also haven't given the numbers for Thermax, so excuse me for that. but sales performance was significantly better than estimated. As I look at the numbers, better than estimated, I'm saying 17% growth YOY. PAT was flat to, marginally lower. So no big changes there. EBITDA margins hardly expanded. So Thermax is the other one. I haven't quite given the numbers for, but decent numbers. Then Bikaji is the third one that I do want to point out, because when you look at the numbers, yes, they were in line with what Bloomberg estimates were, but well, the revenue numbers for Bikaji look very, very strong. So up about 15% at 482 crores versus 419 crores. So that was strong. Um, EBITDA margin at about 13.64 versus 7.33 was also pretty strong. PAT up about 163% at 41 crores versus 15 crores. So very strong set of numbers, but largely in line with estimates. So that is to be kept in mind. But you can't take away the fact that the numbers look very good. The margin expansion is terrific, and therefore Bikaji Foods might see a bit of a reaction in the session today. Similarly, could be there for Godrej Agrovet. Revenues were flat, but margins expanded better than estimated. Net profit up 22% at 107 crores versus estimated 73 crores. So net that did well, and Deep Industries too did well. Revenues up 39%, margins 45 versus 42%. Net profit up 59% at 31 crores versus 19 crores. Couldn't find too many faults there. The fault, if you will, Thyrocare, not the strongest of numbers. Revenues were up about 6% at 135 crores. The estimates were 145 crores. Margins at 25. The estimates were 27%. Net profit down 20% at 17 crores. The estimates were 24 crores. So that was a weak set of numbers. Aptus had a weak NII performance, so that was a problem. Sirma SGS, a weak quarter because of it being a seasonal thing. Anupam Rasayan, of course, was weak in a tough environment. So those are a few numbers that look slightly wobbly. So these are a few things to be kept in mind. Somebody's asked queries on the commodities stocks, right? So one is one is cement and one is steel. So there's a query that Bilay Razak is asking, please share your thoughts on cement. Well, if you just, Bijay, I would just request you, instead of anybody else telling you anything, if you just hear the con call that Ultratech gave a few days back, it's a 40-minute con call. It just speaks about the kind of belief that amongst the largest cement players in the country, or the largest cement player in the country has. There is ACC, and if you see those numbers as well, the performance shows some bit of strength there. You could argue ACC Ambuja might benefit from the efficiencies of the Adani Group, and therefore there might be outliers, but Ultratech is a continuing company, and therefore their commentary also has been strong. So large cement companies apparently are seeing a lot of traction. Infrastructure spends, if they are happening at the pace that they're happening, cement will be needed. So suffice to say, cement seems to be in a good spot. Follow the con calls of the companies to know more. Ambuja numbers are today. Mayank is asking, what about the outlook on the steel industry? Well, if you just saw the con calls again of both JSW and Tata Steel, there's some bit of caution around quarter 2. I know quarter 2 is 2 more months, and then we are into quarter 3, which might be actually good season. But if China gives a stimulus, then commodities might anyways flare up. So all of that might be positive, man. But the commentary from the companies for quarter 2 wasn't the strongest. So that's to be borne in mind. There's also a query around how should investors handle regulatory risk. Example, the levy on Sula Vineyard. Now that's a piece of news as well today. In some sense, stocks might react. Srinivas, very difficult to budget for that. I think the only way you can escape any kind of regulatory issues or otherwise, I mean, what happened in case of large companies in the Indian space, which have had some bit of correctional or other inspections done by various agencies. The only way you can safeguard yourself is by not paying premium or exorbitant premiums to the valuations, because stocks which are trading at mean valuations or not trading at exorbitant valuations will not necessarily correct a lot. If a stock trades at premium valuations, you might get the hit if there is a piece of bad news that comes in from the industry, for the company, or regulatory framework. So I believe just that. I don't think there is any other way to kind of do that. Have you missed anything? See, there is also something, right? Chemical companies, for example, Chemours is going to close its titanium dioxide plant in Taiwan. No impact on product or service quality. Now, there are a couple of chemical companies. I don't want to name them because I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, if you do your research, you will figure out companies which are in the titanium dioxide space, which might get impacted by this as well. Now, who knows? I mean, how you anticipate a Taiwanese company just shutting its operations, right? So it's difficult to say that, but it's happening, and therefore some of these companies related to this product might get hit today. Who knows? Let's wait and watch. Net, maybe not the strongest of days today, but a lot of result reactions in focus. Some key stocks in focus. Watch out for Hero MotoCorp and Royal Enfield in particular, two-wheeler stocks. So that is to be kept in mind. Clutch of conversations, of course, lined up today on BQ Prime. So we have Shashank Srivastava of Maruti at 9 a.m. today. Thermax, Ashish Bhandari joins in at 10. Nitin Sood of PVR at about 10:50 to talk about their numbers. Talking point with Mahesh Patil at 10 a.m. So that's to be watched out for. And the mutual fund show with Suresh Chattogopan and Harshad Chetanwala, we try and talk about some of the passive versus active funds and what to do with some of the NFOs in particular. There are 2 or 3 NFOs currently. We'll try and talk about those in the show today. So do try and tune in for that as well. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Trade Setup. Have a great day ahead.